Welcome into this new episode of Cyber Chronicles, where we bring various insights about the ever-changing industry of tech and IT.
In today's episode, we look at the past, present, and future of AI, including ethics in AI, software development, and multimodal concepts.
This is Cyber Chronicles, where every episode unveils a new chapter in the story of progress.
Welcome back to Cyber Chronicles. This week, we're going to be talking about AI in education. Should it be allowed in schools? Does it hurt or help? We might also touch on ethics in AI, or just general AI information. I'm Nate, and I'm a cybersecurity researcher and technology enthusiast.
Hi, I'm Landon. I am one of the two co-hosts of this podcast, along with Nate. As some previous intros in the last podcast, I'm going for pen testing, red teaming. I started out blue teaming, but I would prefer red teaming at this point in time. And I'm excited to do this podcast about, general AI stuff.
And I am Bob. I'm an IT and cybersecurity educator. I'm also a pen tester. And I love to learn about the new breakthroughs in AI and try to implement them in any way I can.
I'm John, and I just have an interest in all things technology. I'm a recent addition to the IT field. Just got started recently, and yeah, I like learning everything there is to learn.
Hi, my name is Chance. I'm new to the IT realm of things, but I'm really enjoying it. I really want to work either purple teaming or cloud, either or. And yeah, I just enjoy learning.
Since this is a general AI podcast, which I'm assuming there will be many episodes, let's just talk about the popular one, ChatGPT. As we know, ChatGPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. Basically takes human input and formulates responses and requests. And it also trains off of human input and input from various sources that we do not quite know, but we could assume. Since the last episode was AI and schooling, I figured we would start out with ChatGPT and how does it affect schooling? Should it be allowed in school? And how's it regulated in certain classes like English or math?
Yeah, I guess I can start and weigh in a bit. As an educator, this past year has been kind of interesting when it comes to the AI piece. Because I've always been about embracing it in the classroom and just experimenting with the new technologies as they come out. But I've noticed the good and the bad. So I've had biases, and I have my biases towards it. I think we should use it in the classroom, but I'm also a technology instructor. I've been part of AI decision committees, if you will, that make decisions on the school's behalf and present them to administration and say, hey, this is what we should do. These are the policies we might want to put in place. And I've seen a large amount of educators have mostly concerns about it. And I understand that too, because if you think about it, the English professor who is wanting to help someone get better at writing, doing critical thinking, good research, and then being able to, articulate themselves in written form, like their students. This has been an interesting time for them because you have a lot of students who are trying to shortcut the process by just sort of, telling ChatGPT to write an essay or any of these other ones. I think there's another one out now. It's new called Claude. And that one's getting popular, and it'll churn out a pretty decent essay, and get good grades. But is that helping the student? So I think it's an interesting time we're in. What do y'all think? I don't know, like from the learning side, how have you used it?
Well, so personally, I try not to use it. Because I'm worried that I could easily give into some temptation with AI, as far as using it in a unethical way for my studies. It's just a bit too tempting for me. That being said, there are times where I have used it for studying in a non-problematic way, and when I'm using it, I kind of use it to try and fill in the blanks, right? Because you'll be handed a subject and there's just so much more to it. And so it helps me fill in like, okay, so what else do I need to be looking into? What else do I need to be looking for? What are some other topics I need to research to accompany this thing I'm having issues with? To sort of fill in the picture and fill in the gaps.
I kind of use it all the time when I'm in school. I like to I I have notes for different commands that I use for either if I'm doing some ethical hacking or um, pretty much anything with Windows PowerShell. I don't particularly know Windows PowerShell all that well,
Mhm.
so I just use ChatGPT all the time when I need to. And I get that it can seem like you're cheating in that regard, but um the I don't see anyone trying to memorize all of Windows PowerShell. There's just too
Okay.
many commands. So either you write your notes, which I do, or you look it up on ChatGPT really quickly, and then it's like, oh, well, it's almost immediately you get your command, and it's really nice. Instead of having to type it out yourself too, you just copy and paste it.
I think the real concern for me is like English classes and or math classes because I mean, you could. I think ChatGPT when it first came out, not very good at math. From what I tried and from what I've heard, it was not very developed in math. But now it is much better. Now with four, since you can ChatGPT 4, you can upload pictures and you could upload a picture of your math homework and it will scan it and give you the answers and it's accurate. I think for that and English, as far as being able to articulate what you're thinking, I could definitely see if I was an English teacher and all my students were using ChatGPT, there's not really a point of being in the class if that's what you use it for. But like on my case, where I've been studying in IT and cybersecurity researching, I've learned like what Nate said is as far as PowerShell goes, you're not going to memorize those, and it's not really much difference between that or referencing your notes, or you reference ChatGPT first and then use that in your notes because it explains the parameters. It explains kind of what the command does. So if you're looking for an nmap command or a PowerShell command, you could look it up. It would give you it, and may need some slight modifications. As we know, it's not perfect, but you could use that to help you to further how quick you're doing it.
I've had a couple of these experiences in class recently where I can think of one when there was a Linux class that I'm teaching. It's sort of intro Linux class, and we were doing some bash scripting. And I was teaching a little bit of bash scripting, and I figured, you know what? Let's turn this into more of a hands-on lab where we bring together what we talked about so far and automate it. For those out there that don't know what bash is, it's a born again shell. It's a scripting language on Linux systems that essentially lets you automate tasks. So if you can do it from the command line, you can probably make a bash script that'll automate that same thing. So we were setting up like file shares and web servers, so like a website. We used WordPress, and most of the people in the class were not programmers, so their natural inclination was not to just jump right to like coding off the top of their head or googling to go find blocks of code as most people do that. They're googling to find examples anyways. They went to ChatGPT, and it was really interesting what we saw, and it was fascinating and impressive. A lot of these scripts ran and worked right away. The more complex ones where someone might have tried to get a script to do everything, like bash scripting and file shares, well, Samba is what they were setting up on Ubuntu. If they try to do multiple tasks, it seemed to be more prone to make mistakes similar to a human would. And like instead of trying to take hours to kind of piece that together, Google around and write it from scratch, ChatGPT gave us a place to start. And I remember one student in particular that had set up a script that was going to set up a Samba share, and it was going to install WordPress from scratch. And that was basically the prompt. Give me a script, a bash script for Ubuntu on an Ubuntu system that will set up a Samba share and install WordPress. And it gave us a script, a pretty complex script, and you know, copy and pasted it right into the a file, and then ran that file, and it was like a .sh file, and it runs and it installs and everything goes through it, and we got an error, right? I think that the issue actually was whenever the WordPress server installed, we went to the web page, right? Like the IP address of the machine, and it pulled up a blank white screen. So it was like, okay, something's loading, but it's not working. And so we spent like 10, 20 minutes maybe troubleshooting it. And we're looking at this bash script, right? We're troubleshooting the script because obviously ChatGPT messed something up somewhere. And we're looking through it, and there's a part of the script that's passing through credentials to MySQL. MySQL is like a database system that WordPress is using to store like files and content. And so WordPress needs to authenticate with MySQL. And the interesting thing that happened was like it made a mistake that a human probably would. So it was that block of code that passed through the password for MySQL. It was enclosed in double quotes, like an additional set of quotes. We noticed that because in Vim we got some syntax highlighting, and it is better than Nano in every way.
Whoa,
And,
whoa,
um,
whoa, whoa,
Oh,
whoa,
oh,
whoa,
oh, hey,
whoa. We will
hey,
not
And,
allow that in this podcast.
hey,
All
hey.
right. Okay. So and then we just removed that extra set of quotes, and the script ran perfect, and the install page for WordPress came up, and it was fascinating to see that because I think that same script might have took multiple class periods to write from scratch. So what are y'all's thoughts on that? Was there lessons learned in that?
I
Was
mean,
there lessons missed?
as someone who was in there, like who did the lab with you, honestly, the only thing is you still, even though yes, it writes the script for you, but you still have to be able to articulate what you want it to like do. You also have to know how to fill in the blanks because it can't fill in the username. It can maybe tell you where to put it in, but you have to know how to set it up, where to put the database name, how to, you know what I'm saying, the local, the ad, and everything like that, inserting your, you know what I'm saying, knowing how to get to the website in the first place for IP address and stuff like that. Like you still need to understand concept. Yes, it helps. Like, I don't think it's to the point where like you still have to understand concept is what I'm saying.
From the sounds of it, having not been there, it sounds like a shortcut, but in the good way, right? Because that it's not a programming class. Filling in the programming blanks for a class that is not centered around that, I don't see an issue using a tool to fill in those gaps. Now, if it were, say, you were taking a Python class and you were having ChatGPT do your Python code for you, that's a little different. But that's not the case here. So it's to me that's fine, and you're learning. It gives you more time to learn about the topic at hand that you're actually trying to focus on, and allowing you to not totally sidestep, but sort of like glaze over the necessary coding that's not necessarily the focus of what you're trying to get done.
And I think that the fact that you had to recognize that as you said, as a human would make that error.
Yeah, that's a thing that I think is really revolutionary about it. And I think from a technology standpoint, we are able to realize more of the benefits right away than many other disciplines right now.
Certainly.
Because one, we're technical minded right now when it comes to IT, so that's how we kind of see our world. So we know we're going to prompt it in our specific things. But like English professors, like for me, I don't think I would I don't personally believe that I would have the same enthusiasm about ChatGPT if I was an English professor, because while yes, I do think there's some benefits in it being a study buddy or a research buddy to help you with an outline or something like that, the process of writing an essay is such a great learning experience for a student that the ChatGPT just writing it for you it could be a big issue in the long run of Imagine introducing it to someone in middle school that doesn't have the maturity and understanding like we're explaining here. They're just going to say, let me just let that thing write for me. So your English instructors are like, whoa, we got to stop this thing. So when I hear the like, stop this, slow this down, we don't know how to deal with this right now, I kind of understand that perspective because of the fact that English, English is very much needed. You need to do writing. You need to be good at writing. And you need to do that manually, in my experience. I don't think that's a process that you automate. And maybe I'm biased in that area, and maybe that's a little contrary. But I don't. If I was an English professor, I probably would not be as welcoming to the tool. Where with tech, I'm just like, yeah, let's do this thing because it's going to teach you how to script. It's going to write a script faster than you could probably Google the thing, and you were probably going to do that anyways. Most people in tech, they'll proudly admit, oh, I just Googled it, right? And I found this and I pieced it together. And whether it was just Googling a concept or not, for us, we're realizing these awesome benefits where it's kind of flattening that whole learning curve for a lot of things. And then it's reducing that extra step of Googling and trying to sort through a bunch of blog pages and or different sites out there to get commands. We can just sometimes, a lot of the times, like I've seen it even with like networking classes, we're able to ask it, hey, what was the command to do that again? And a lot of the times it's right. I'm not saying it's perfect. Like you said, Landon, earlier, it's not perfect. I agree. But it's pretty good a lot of the time as a troubleshooting assistant, too.
I think that you have to look at this from the maturity perspective, or from both perspectives, right? From the maturity perspective in English, I would say when you were talking about this, the first thought that came to my mind was a proofread. I remember because when I was in English classes, ChatGPT wasn't a thing. So I wrote all my papers. I had some 8-page papers that I had to get proofread, which, thankfully most colleges have a writing center. Most high schools might. I don't really know. I don't remember. It could help you proofread. I'm not saying it would be perfect. However, that's like a very minuscule detail in the sum of things. If you think about it from an English perspective or an English teacher perspective, the whole this is a threat, we need to get it stopped is kind of reasonable because I'm sure their first thought is not, oh, this is a great proofreading tool or word counting tool, even though it's not even accurate in word counting.
Yeah, I would agree because I was thinking I'm touched on this last episode, but back when I was in high school, writing was my least favorite subject. I've gotten a lot better at it now, and I'm okay at it and whatever. But I hated writing so much. So if I was in high school and ChatGPT came out, there's like 9 times out of 10 I would have just had to do it for me because I was not a fan of writing. So I can understand completely like English teachers' dislike for AI.
Like I kind of get that, but I'm not like coming from the same place, I guess. I didn't dislike writing. I disliked coming up with the idea for the topic, but the actual process of writing I actually kind of enjoyed. I think ChatGPT doesn't really serve a benefit for writing. For English classes, things like that. It does for IT. It's flattening the curve, which I think is really necessary in IT because it is so interdisciplinary. And you've got so many fields just within IT that absolutely must interact with each other. So it kind of necessitates a level of being able to not just do your thing, but being able to see it from the perspective, like as a network administrator, for example, you need to also be able to see things from the security side of things and from the normal IT side of things. And frankly, you also benefit from having some knowledge of programming on top of that. But it's hard to be a good or let alone a great network admin and also good at security and decent at normal IT and half decent at programming. It's just too many sets of knowledge to try to keep a strong footing in, especially when they're all changing all the time. So you kind of, I feel like something like ChatGPT or some other AI tool is kind of necessary to allow things to continue to advance. Otherwise, it just becomes too complex and labyrinth to try and navigate.
I think
Did y'all see what? Sorry to cut you off,
No, you're
Landon.
good.
Jensen Wang, the the CEO of NVIDIA and the founder, said about programming skills.
I
So
didn't, but I know they're dying.
there's well, he said, and whether I agree with it or not, I don't know yet, but he's got to have something with what he's saying, considering the position he's in and how influential the company's become. I definitely respect his opinion.
Hmm.
He mentioned this, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He said that kids shouldn't learn the code; they should leave it up to AI, basically. And while his words weren't exactly that, he said that the goal in the long term, because of the improvements we've been seeing in ChatGPT and other tools coming out that are AI, basically AI programming assistants and things like the GitHub Copilot and what's the other one? I forgot. It has like a human name.
Devin.
Devin, and all these like coming up into the market.
IBM's coming up with one right now. I don't know what the name for it is, but IBM is working on a subscription service that will do your programming for you as a company.
Yeah, so those are coming, and he's essentially saying we should be building that future.
Hmm.
And so he was like, keep in long term, maybe we shouldn't be looking at teaching these skills to kids when we can just build these tools that are going to do it. And it reminds me of and I'll put all these things I'm mentioning, I'll give them to y'all for the show notes. But so the everybody out there can kind of have the links too. The there's a really interesting, kind of thought process behind that, and it's making people frustrated because they're like, I've learned all these skills. Are you saying that I'm not going to be needed? And it's definitely not there yet, but I could see it, and it makes me think of this video I watched. This Harvard, this guy came and talked at Harvard, and they put it on YouTube, and his argument was basically that this is the last programming language. And whether I don't know, that's his point. I'm just saying it makes sense. I'm not saying it's like gonna be the future, but he's saying natural language is the last programming language. Like, wouldn't you want to have a computer that you can just speak to in your natural language and it creates the thing you want it to create? You don't have to learn all these different languages to get to that point.
I think I think that will be more true than not, but I think there will be a level of like I think some programmers will always be needed, but I think that the number will decline substantially in
You
the
have to
next couple of
you have to
years.
program the
I mean,
AI though.
Exactly.
So
You need to be able to program an AI. Human language is great for people to communicate with. It's not great for machines. So an AI is going to take that language and then reinterpret it to another programming language.
can I butt in though real quick?
Go for it.
By the way, the links and stuff that Bob's talking about, and any other links that anyone else brings up, the guests bring up, or Nate will be in the podcast um, dash resources channel of the Discord, and the Discord will be linked in the description. So if you are interested in any of the links we are talking about, I'll put them in the Discord so that you can reference them.
I mean, piggybacking off of what like Bob said, I think it's obvious. Like, and what John said with like jobs decreasing, isn't that the whole point of creating AI to automate things, to take the weight or the duty or the workload off of humans and putting it into their hands? Like that's the whole point of creating it, to make things easier so that we don't have to learn so many things and do so many things. I
It
mean,
is.
I think that's just obvious. That's just a byproduct. That's the whole point of its creation.
It is, but some interesting things with AI, to my mind, are
What do you mean?
historically speaking, with automation tasks like machinery and the machines that make factories possible. Um, Historically, we've always seen that when automation comes in, there are actually overall more jobs created as a result. Like, yes, absolutely, huge numbers of people will lose their jobs as a result of the automation. But
They
then
all
new jobs are created for people who create those machines, people who maintain those machines. But I don't know if that will be the case for AI because you don't really, you need a small team of absolutely brilliant programmers to maintain and improve the AI, and that's about it. It's not like you're gonna have that create a whole bunch of new jobs. It's not like you could, in theory, as a byproduct of companies growing, but I don't know if that's what we'll see.
I mean, there's always going to be people that need to maintain it and watch over it and
Yeah,
upgrade
there
it and
will
all that,
there will
update it.
be a small select few people
Exactly.
with extremely incredible skills at programming and math.
They
Well,
just
but
gotta
to
know what it
improve
does.
on an AI that is already so good and is going to be getting better all the time, they would
But
have to be very talented
but
to
they
make it
may
better.
not be working in that field. Like they may not be in that factory that's using the AI. They may be somewhere else. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
talking
just
about the
mean like
actual
the AI
place that's
itself is
like
being
actually
made.
buying the AI
Yeah.
tech.
Okay, I get you.
So this brings up, as far as training people, like you said, Bob, as the language the language you speak being the language that the technically the programming language, even though, as you know, back end it's like code blocks and it wouldn't be it programming in English, but that's something you that would be in education. And as far as like teaching and education, which I'm sure if that became a thing, then it would change a lot. I think the most popular things that I can think about in education with AI is New York City schools banning the use of ChatGPT, which I know obviously ChatGPT isn't a crazy software dev, but if there was an AI like this that could do anything and it was more powerful than ChatGPT, would it be banned in schools like how New York City did? Although they did in May, New York did reverse the decision to block ChatGPT. I doubt that that did much because you know most people have a phone nowadays and most people have cellular. So as far as their
Schools have
networks,
Wi-Fi, but I
yeah,
guess you could block it, but still.
but that I mean they blocked it on their network. So
Yeah,
yes, if you tried accessing it from their Wi-Fi,
this is true.
or if you tried accessing it from maybe a school computer that was obviously connected to their network, it would be blocked. But there's just plenty of ways to get around that. But do you guys think that if we have like such a beefy, I guess, software development AI, do you think that it will be restricted in school, or I guess at this point will there even be schooling necessary? Like would there be software
Mm,
development school because you don't really need schooling, you just need basic English language?
I do think school is still needed. You still need that human
Yeah.
interaction. Like you still need to learn how to communicate because that's the thing about ChatGPT. Like the ability to communicate is so valuable because how you communicate with the machine is as good of an answer as you're gonna get. So I mean,
I'm
I
saying
definitely feel like.
schooling in like software development, not like
Oh,
schooling in general.
My bad.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
think,
most definitely. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
like I said, I think there will always be programmers, but I don't. I think it will become such a niche profession that I could see it falling away from public schools and maybe even some colleges may drop programming as a program. I know someone that I work with. Okay, I don't talk to him often because he mostly works from home, but he's a programmer by profession. And he was saying that he's glad that he's approaching retirement age because um, in the next couple of years we won't need programmers anymore. You'll just pay an IBM subscription and it will do it for you. I think it will become one of those jobs where so few people are needed in the field that it doesn't make sense to teach it at a primary school level. It's going to be a college education kind of thing where if you already have this interest and you really really want to pursue this long term and be dedicated to it, maybe there's a place for you.
It could like I don't know, take a lot of the schooling out, right? Like a lot of the amount of programs and colleges that do it. But then maybe, as you said, you're gonna need some elite programmers that
Yeah.
that work on these AI bots. Like let's just say Podcast GPT. Let's just say that
Mhm.
was the bot that came out, right? And it was the AI bot or like the software development bot. You said, "Hey, I need a full-scale enterprise net or like whatever you wanted it to program, and it could do it with
Yeah.
you, and it could take large scale projects, and it could take other code into account. I
Mhm.
feel like the people that worked on that would they would have to be elite, they would have to be smart, so that maybe there was there would still be software development schools, but it would probably just be, you got to have something, you got to have some
Yeah.
gift, you got to be pretty smart
It'd be
to
one
do
of
it.
those things like medical school, law school, programming school.
Neurosurgeon. Like,
Yeah, like you have to just be truly brilliant. I think that's kind of where we'll go. And programming kind of has the benefit over law and medicine in that you can practice it at home. You can't practice law or medicine at home. With many skills, you kind of have to do it to get good at it. All of you have experienced this where, like, yeah, you can read about a subject all day, but until you start doing it for a little while, you don't really understand it. And it'll be the same. I think programs are the same where, like, okay, well, great, we need these elite programmers and we only need a few of them, but they have to get elite somehow. So there may have to be some jobs available for them to hone their skills to be ready for that high level of industry. At the level where they're like, okay, I'm assisting with the programming of an AI.
Yeah, and I think we're honestly far ways away from that. We're kind of thinking in sci-fi land, in my opinion. I know that there's a lot of, tech luminaries or whatever in the space, like predicting, in the next 5 years we're gonna achieve artificial general intelligence, which is the thing that all these tech companies are trying to build, which is
Yeah.
essentially an intelligence, a digital intelligence that is smarter than the average human being and
Through
more
AI.
productive than the average human being.
Yeah.
But the challenge is like, yes, I think what we're seeing is absolutely a 0 to 1 step. There's a book called 0 to 1 that kind of proposes that there are certain things that are not considered progress truly. It's just a duplication of another concept. But then there are things that are absolutely like a step forward for people as a whole.
Hmm.
And I think from that standpoint, it is. But when I look at the whole idea of, it's going to replace all these programmers, the programmers I know and I see what they're capable of and how productive and intelligent they are, even at a junior level, I don't think ChatGPT is replacing them right now. And even like the Devin tool, they're selling it to venture capitalists and they're trying to get investment by basically saying you won't need other, developers essentially, right? And so watch and follow what that company does. It's Devin, right? I keep on getting that
yeah,
name
it's
mixed up.
Devin. I don't know. I think it's just Devin.
Yeah, just Devin. So like, okay, it can't really take into account huge code bases, right? I think about this, like, you think of a company like Rockstar Games and the new Grand Theft Auto games and even GTA Online. If a problem goes on in a multiplayer server where someone's able to get money and drop it in other players' accounts, that is a issue that probably needs a lot of attention, and they have to look at a larger code base than just some of the scripting. But just little scripts here and there and little programs here and there. It has to consider all. It's like all things considered based on your code base. This will work and this won't break everything else. So it has to be more all encompassing, and it's not there yet. I'm not doubting though that it will get there, because if there's people that are still working on this, right, and we already know there's a lot of enthusiasm on this, they're gonna keep building it to get better and better. And I remember when it wasn't even like Chat GPT. You had to go into the OpenAI playground. It was an API, and you basically prompted the model directly through the API, and it worked and it didn't. Like you had to troubleshoot a lot of it back then, and that was like a little over a year ago. And now ChatGPT came out. ChatGPT, the initial versions were not great, but it keeps getting better, and it's gonna be amazing. I think we can't limit it to text either. We know you mentioned this earlier about how GPT can see, and that's called GPT-4 Vision. So that's a different model, and it's multimodal. And I believe that the future we're going to see that's really empowering for me, that I'm excited about, is this multimodal AI future where you can tell the thing, hey, make me a video or make me a song that has this sound, lo-fi, sci-fi sound with a music video. And basically, and this is what I think I'm excited about seeing, your whatever you can imagine in your imagination that can be done with a computer can be created. And we're seeing people say, "Oh, we came out with a new game development model. It can make a game." Imagine that. I'm just saying, like, the potential for creativity is incredible. Like, it shouldn't take 5 to 10 years for you to be able to write a game. It should be like, let me tell the computer to do it because I know it's capable of being very fast.
I just feel like we're in the future a little too much though. Not like too much, but
What?
as you were saying for Devin had like Devin doing, I don't know, kind of basing it off of like a large scale game or something. GTA 5 has more than 1 million lines of code. So that's how, like, sometimes whenever I'm thinking about Devin, as far as the future of how long it would take, because I'm not doubting that it would, 1 million lines of code and you do one thing and just shank the entire program, like that's a lot of reworking and havoc and money you're gonna lose. So I feel like it's a really cool idea to be like, say, make me a song or make me a game, and it not take 5 or 10 years. Um, I just feel like I don't know how long it will take to go from where we are now to where, I don't know, 1 million lines of code. I don't know how much
Yeah,
GTA
and
6 has,
I
but
mean in terms of like learning curve. Like think about the learning curve to learning how to make a song that has a music video with it or a game, like to develop a game from scratch. It's like that's what I mean. Like the learning curve for the average person to do that who doesn't already have the capability, their future is looking very bright because these tools are already existing. Like these tools I'm mentioning, like there are, you can look it up. I'll include some of these notes, but there are tools now that can make basic games. You just ask it to and it'll write one. uh, Google, they used to call it the AI kitchen. Let me, yeah, the AI kitchen is what they call it, the test kitchen. Yeah, that's what it's called. And there's actually a model in there called Music FX, and you can tell it, make me a lo-fi song that sounds like it would be in The Legend of Zelda, and it will make you the beat. And while it might not be exactly what you envisioned or imagined, you might not have had that in your imagination at all. You just had the thought of, I want it to sound this kind of way. And it actually does produce the song. And it does it in under a minute. And it is just a beat. You would have to put the vocals on it. But I can only imagine in the future you'll be able to. I mean, you can do that now, but all you have to do is they're trying to come. That's what I'm saying is they're trying to combine these different AI tools to be in a single tool. That's what they mean by multimodal. So you prompt the thing and it can just create this amazing thing. And I do think we'll see that in the next couple of years, the ability to do that at least a low level.
you think
Seeing with Sora and all that stuff.
you think it'll be able to do that though? Like if ChatGPT came out with a kind of a music bot like you're talking, that you could give Sora the audio and it could make you a video based off of it? Like that would
Oh
be
yeah.
that would be insane.
I think that's the goal because that's where you can say it's truly multimodal like a human being is. Because we're, I think that right now, if you told me, like you said, are you smarter than ChatGPT? Like, do I have more knowledge in my head than ChatGPT about all the subject it knows? No. I would say it's actually smarter than I am. I'm not smarter than it. However, if we bring it into like practice, I'm much more capable than ChatGPT. And what I mean by that is, let's ask ChatGPT to build a house, right? Or to like give somebody a ride somewhere. Like it's in a very fixed format, and right now it can do images and text, right? It can do some math, and so it can't do much more than that. It can't really build relationships with people and make connections and help them get jobs. And so when I think about the future of education, I think the AI movement will create more of a yearning for human connection. Because if we're just talking to this thing that generates text that seems human like, we're like, this is not a human, right? I know you've seen some of the audio generated. You're like, there's something soulless about the sound of it. But, you know, I don't know. I think that they're going to try to continue to make these companies more and more capable and like a human by combining the multimodal, being able to draw, and make art, being able to pictures, video, sounds, and combine them together. But I still don't think, in terms of raw capability and impact in the world, it will be able to like truly replace most humans in what we're doing. But I might be wrong about that.
The videos they have on the website, which I could link those, or you could look up Sora if you're at home. They're amazing.
I have a very different opinion. As impressive as Sora is, for
You have the
me, it's the
defamation.
AI I'm most scared of.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. It can make video that looks far too real, not quite, but quite nearly indistinguishable from the real world. And I think once that cat is out of the bag, it's kind of the death of truth because you won't be able to tell if a news story was actually recorded or if they just put a prompt into an AI to make the story that was convenient today for the narrative.
Yeah, if you look at the videos on Sora's page and you know they're AI, like for a fact, you could tell in some of them. Some of them
Right
it's
now.
almost you can't. But I do see what you're saying. Once it's out and you go look at a video and you don't know concrete, then you could look at it for long enough and it's going to seem like AI, even if it's real.
Yeah.
Your brain will find something, make up something that will look like AI.
Or vice versa. You know,
Yeah.
I because like image generation has been improving consistently. Not like at lightning fast speeds, but it's definitely gotten better at being like, oh, we constantly make this mistake. We fixed it. It's no longer making that mistake, at least not as frequently. Like, hands, for example, are a little less funky with AI image generation than they once were. Um, Give it a couple years, I could see Sora going from, oh yeah, definitely got some noticeable things to, wow, you really got to sit there and stare for a while to find one little maybe.
Yeah, think about Dolly with text. Dolly went from to like much better. I mean, it's still not great, don't get me wrong. And it throws a lot of this funky non-language text in there, just a bunch of weird stuff.
Mhm.
But it does get a lot better. And if you try so many times, it will eventually get it correct. You know, you may run out of your limit first, but at some point, you will get it spelled correctly. When you first
And
started,
Right. You're
it
like,
won't at all.
spell
yeah,
that right.
and
I
I'm
yell
like the
at it. I
worst.
yell
I'm
at
like
it.
I'm an abusive human companion to my AI.
Do you do it in all caps?
I'm like, spell it right.
And
yes,
if you say don't put a cat in it, it will put like you can't. It does have some quirks. If you say anything about not putting it in there, it will put it in there. It can't help
Right.
itself.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. I try to prompt it. I do like that ability because, like, with mid, have you all play? If you play with Mid Journey, which is another AI art generator, image generator that's
Text to
phenomenal.
image.
Yeah, text to image. The one thing I think that Dolly has an advantage over is not the way things look, but the conversational interface. I really love that in ChatGPT. So, like, when you're talking to Dolly basically through ChatGPT, you're like, okay, this time make it look like this, or then no, this time spell it right. You know, it's
Stop
like
it.
that.
Spell it correctly.
Right. It's like I've started kind of getting a little bit more polite, where I'm like, try this. Oh, that was a great looking image, but this time, can you try to spell it right? It doesn't help, but it definitely. I see what you're saying there. The text has gotten better in how it places it, because I remember it used to not even be able to put like cool looking text in the image. It just puts some scrambled mess that it looks like an alien language from Star Wars. But like now it'll actually put the, like if you ask it to put, you know, old western bar or saloon on the top of a building, it will do it. It'll try to put it on top. It knows what you mean. But yeah, I think Sora is going to be, I'm with you, John. It's another one of those steps that's going to be like, what do we do with this? It's so
What's
powerful.
real?
You
We
you got
can't
to
go
check
back
out.
from it
And
though.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, but
There's
like
you
Pandora's box has been
once
opened.
it's out, it's out. It's like it'll
Yeah.
be really for me. I think at first I'm talking about this as just trying it out a couple of times. I'll be extremely
Mhm.
excited, but like you said, once it
Sure.
improves, for me, I always look at something, and maybe this is just a security perspective in me or the just always conscientious about it. But if I see something that I know there might be something in, there might be something suspicious. So if I know AI is like that, I'm always going to be looking for it. But the
Mhm.
the problem is that at some point it's going to get so good, and it probably already is so good, that you're just going to start tripping yourself. Like I said, you're going to think
Yeah.
you see something or vice versa. But where I'm always looking for that, where I would always be hesitant, I feel like I would just continually be thinking everything is AI.
Yeah. Like it gets to a point where it doesn't matter how logical your thinking is when everything presented to you could like it's just a coin toss, real or not, real or not, real or not. The knowledge base is tainted. You don't have a point of reference to check against to say is
Obviously,
this
though, if
real.
it's like an animal that's been dead for, like we saw the in one of the things that Sora had was mammoths. We know mammoths have been dead for a long time, right? So you know that's AI. But then again, like,
I I'm
uh,
gonna caveat that real quick.
what's up?
First off, I'm going to throw a caveat at that point you were just making. First, there are a couple animals that have been believed to be extinct that turned out there were a couple living that we didn't find for 120 years, but they existed. There was a bird recently that, whether you believe in evolution or not, whatever, but a bird that was extinct on an island, confirmed extinct, showed up again from a species of bird that came to the island, no longer needed wings, and after like 30 generations, it became a flightless bird again. And it was identical to the bird that went near enough identical to the bird that went extinct. Finally, there are programs where we are trying to bring back things like mammoth.
Yeah, but
Jurassic Park.
those haven't been
We
very.
brought back bison.
But I know I've seen some of the mammoth trials, or at least some type of
Yeah,
a
but you know what
rhino. I think it
you
was.
see
There
what I
might have been
mean?
another one. But yeah, but at the same time, three mammoths with a perfect camera shot and some snowy flakes around it, like that. Obviously, that to me, I would think that image generation would be more of that, because you could get it from like you could ask ChatGPT to give me a photo of a extinct animal from however long away through a camera lens. Like I feel like that would be more, but like these perfect videos, in my opinion, you see a perfect video of a mammoth, nah, nah. But that
I
does
know.
But it
make me
was on the internet.
question the
It had to be
validity.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But it makes me question the validity of some things that are actually true, though.
Yes.
So that's what I would say. If there actually was a picture of a mammoth, which even if there was now, I probably wouldn't believe it. I would have to do a lot more research. But
Sure.
someone comes out and actually finds one, I'm gonna be like, that's AI. That's AI.
Yep.
Right.
So
And
I
that's
understand.
and at the time of the recording of this episode, which is March 2024, the public does not currently have access to Sora. They're red teaming it. So they're they got security people in and people from different OpenAI, by the way, with Sora, the video generation model. They got a bunch of different people testing this thing for safety purposes, capacity. They're trying to make sure that, they're accounting for all the most dangerous situations. I think before you can, because this thing's already capable. We know this, because Sam Altman, he one of the founders and the CEO of OpenAI right now, he he tweeted, this is an interesting tweet. I'll share this as well as a resource to put in the show notes. But he tweeted, like, just to give you, he was like, to some effect, he said, just to prove the capabilities of Sora in a safe way right now, give me a prompt and I'll do it. And it's fascinating what people did. Like, people were tweeting at him prompts, and if he read it and he got around to it, he would go use his access to Sora, generate the video that they wanted to see, and then like put it in the thread and respond to their tweet. And it was amazing. Like, I know one guy was like, two dogs on a mountain podcasting, and it generated like a video of very realistic looking video of, obviously these dogs wouldn't be doing that, but it looked like they were um podcasting on the top of a mountain, and they were golden retrievers. You could see their hair like flowing in the wind. It was amazing.
It was
To
on the
your
internet
point,
though, so it was real.
right? It had to be real.
Look,
Right?
it's a
But
Neuralink thing.
Just for
They
some
put Neuralink in
Right.
dogs, and now they can podcast. It's fine.
right.
Right.
for some insight, I don't know if Bob said this or not. I'm sure you did. I think you did say testing, but for those out there that don't know, red teaming and pen testing, I think you said testing. But if you're not thinking of that perspective and you really want it released, I would say think of all the foul things that could be generated if it wasn't tested correctly. So, like, even
Beyond
though I
foul.
am very impatient and want it to come out, I do believe that some very thorough testing, because the not safe for work and gore and all that crap could be probably pretty bad. And there might be a couple hiccups at first and throughout it, but I do hope they do very, very good job of that, because
Right. And not to mention some of the hysteria generating content that could come out, like
defamation of
beyond the
character.
NSFW stuff,
content.
but like just like a terrorist attack, like a massive tsunami hits California. Like, without a doubt, like there's going to be some people, if they saw those kind of videos looking that real, and some social engineer out there, malicious intentions, could put this video out there. And for a moment, all it takes is one person seeing that, and they're like, okay, sounds great. I'm gonna get out of here. Right? There's a tsunami. Time to go. And they leave town, whatever. But I don't know. You're gonna have that type of personality. I've seen it already these days with people believing things right away.
No, think about
So
older people, like social engineering now for older people. They sent some old grandma, a video of California. Um, all it takes is a little bit of enumeration or footprinting someone to figure out their grandson lives in California, right? Send them a video of this California being flooded, and that you need to send them 10 grand immediately to their account so they can evacuate, and you just give them the voice of, whoever from these little phone calls that you pick up and no one's there. Maybe that might be a little conspiracy theorist, but I'm just saying it is
I don't know. I don't think
more
it's too far
than
fetched.
well, I was saying from like someone calling you and then you pick up and no one's there and they're recording your voice. That's what I always believe is happening, so I always just hang up. But with a simple recording of someone, I could find a recording of you or me or someone else, use some AI generation to be able to flip and use their voice, and then Sora, that is like a really good social engineering towards somebody that doesn't have immediate access to a computer to look it up if it's real or not, and or not believing it or believing it, because somebody that's never heard about Sora sees that video and it looks real, where people who have seen Sora, like myself and I, can barely tell, they're going to believe it. And that's that much more for them that like for whoever's social engineering, like they're gonna believe that. Like I just think that that's just a whole another level of some concerns that are going to be brought up because of this.
Yeah, I personally think there should be an identifier assigned to each video produced by Sora, the model. So, whether it's in the metadata or somewhere that you can't really alter easily, so that OpenAI can confirm, right? Like there can be some validation mechanism. I know this is much harder with text alone, but with video, there's gotta be a way you can watermark it or
Basically, like put an NFT within the video.
yeah, I mean that's not a bad idea, honestly. That's not a bad idea. Like do some like blockchain type validation, but
Mm.
you definitely would need, I don't know, you would need some centralization in my opinion to be able to like in a security sense validate, okay, yes, this is a video part of this video was produced by Sora, because it would get complicated where video editing you could combine it with actual real footage. So when you pulled that in as a clip, you export it, it would be like partially Sora. So you'd have to be able to find it in the footage itself somewhere, something that could not be removed. But I don't know. I think it needs to have that because, we're going to have those cases. People are going to try that. And we need to give people the tools to be able to validate some of the authenticity of some of this stuff.
Yeah. My worry is because I could see that happening for something like Sora. I could see that as a actual possibility. But then we have the more rogue-ish nations, like with a significant amount of resources, like Russia and China, um, where they're just like, we're just here to sow discord. We don't care.
Right. And North Korea is going to be all over this, right?
Yeah, and like they don't have access to this stuff, like their own model, right? Like they don't have their own Sora that they could just be like, oh well, we just don't put we don't put any brakes on this thing. We don't put any limiters on it, unlike Sora does. Um,
Right. But I'm
but
saying
at
their
some point
leadership
they'll
would
get
just generate videos of the grand leader or whatever they call him
there.
and
Glorious.
say,
Yeah.
he's look at what he conquered and have him like in the
Like
propaganda videos,
24
destroy
dragons.
like wrestling a bear
Look at
or
him giving money to this innocent family.
right or
Heroic
ripping a
deeds.
tusk off a woolly mammoth.
Yeah.
Just, I feel like
So
they would do more like sort of like demigod type videos like that, like
I don't think so.
Herculean type stuff.
What do
North
you
Korea, yes, but Russia and China, they would be much more subversive, I believe.
what do you think the
Um,
government's response is from the U.S.?
I think I could sort of see us doing that to other countries, but we don't tend. I think we sort of stepped away a bit from destabilizing places because we did it for so long and realized, oh, this really creates a long-term problem that we can't get rid of ever.
What about
Once we've opened that door, we can't close it again.
like Bob said? Okay, it happens. Let's say Sora comes out tomorrow.
Hmm.
Somebody says something about a tsunami in California. Mass hysteria happens, or at least for a little bit, and they realize what kind of impact this could have. Somebody
Yeah,
says, "Man, I moved all the way up to Canada because I
yeah.
thought there was a tsunami.
I drove 300
I
miles.
drove 300 miles. I drove all the way to Texas." And now they're complaining online, and it may only happen to 100 people, but that's still 100 people complaining online. It will blow up, right? That's going to
Mhm.
happen with social media and our current state. So what do you think the government's response is to that? Like immediately trying to shut it down with how controlling it is, or with how
I don't
controlling the government is?
necessarily think the government would shut down AI because it's such a valuable or such a high potential tool that we want it to be iterated upon. We want it to improve. We want to see where it goes because nations that we see as hostile are doing the same thing, and we're not about to tie our hands behind our back. That being said, I could see them regulating it and saying, look, if all the like new development stuff maybe has to go through some sort of a government proofing process. Like okay, let's see what it can do. Okay, we know the government has documented what it's capable of, and we need some sort of like a watermark thing, an NFT thing, so we can confirm that this video was made by you and hasn't just, so we know it's been fabricated and isn't real. I could see them putting some regulation in place to be like, okay, we need to pump the brakes just a little bit, so you guys aren't just running wild and hoping that it works for the best. But I don't see us pulling the parachute on it or anything,
No, I don't think the government is. I don't think they're gonna like stop it, right? But I do think that there might be some rules and laws that form from it,
I
or
think we're like at the cusp of that.
yeah, and depending on how the red teaming goes, right? Depending on how it is when it's introduced, because ChatGPT could print you out how to make a nuclear bomb at first, right? But
In theory.
and I don't even know if those, yeah, I don't even know if that worked, but it tried, I guess. And then we know
Yeah.
with like, I think it's called Dan,
The
do
Dan
anything
prompt
now.
thing.
I think that's
Yeah,
what it
the
was.
jailbreak.
Jailbreaking it. So maybe there might be a jailbreaking Sora. That sounds scary, but I don't know. I just think that there could possibly be, depending on what happens when it's released, there might be like some laws or something that's put in place. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, well, that brings up a thought for me. Um, Stable Diffusion and Stability AI is one of those organizations that their focus is kind of opposite to OpenAI, even though their initiatives are very similar.
Worm
They're building
GPT.
similar services and products called Stability. And their thing is their philosophy and ethics are different now. So you know how OpenAI has they basically changed their mind on open sourcing training data and weights for these models, and
I
they
kind of
are
get that.
saying we're gonna gatekeep this data, we're gonna gatekeep these models, we're not giving you this locally, right? Like you are not installing these tools locally for you to customize however you want. Where stability is different. Stability is pro open source everything. So they're like open source it, let the people do what they want with it. And that's being considered dangerous. And like as we're having this conversation, open source is great for I think quick, fast innovation and creativity, but not so much for in this case making sure that it's not used to be in an abusive way, right? And so having an open source model that can make videos and make things look very real, that's a little bit concerning. It's almost too powerful.
Hmm.
And I think the government the government may want to step in that area, but I'm always hesitant to say that because, governance and placing too much regulation on something can like really slow it down, like to a snail's pace, to where you need to vote on everything and it has to go through this process and this process, and 2 3 years later it gets approved. Like you
Hmm.
don't want that in technology, but you also don't want it to just go unchecked.
Yeah. I think AI is just such a potentially powerful and dangerous tool, not just in a like I'm trying to like it could be so very socially disruptive. Um in all of the worst ways. Kind of like how we see with social media, how social media is very socially disruptive. It sort of seems like it is better at putting up dividing walls between people and putting people into their us versus them camps rather than actually connecting people. And I think AI sort of falls into a similar category of it's much easier for it to do harm than good. And it's absolutely going to be used that way. But you also, again, can't handicap it because the cat's out of the bag and AI is here to stay, and other countries are not necessarily gonna slow things down just because we do, just because we're like, oh, this could be a problem.
From a technology standpoint, I'm definitely in AI. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some of these multimodal tools come out, and where we're already seeing a little bit of it where it can generate images and text. But I'm excited to see it be able to like make things in your imagination come to life. Cause I don't know. I know we probably have a lot of listeners out there and many of us in this room who like video games. I mean, video games are not real, right? Like the game, Fortnite, those things, you can't do that in real life. Like it's just not possible in real life. And there are certain things that you couldn't do in real life, but you can do in the game. And that's what makes them exciting, I think. And I think I don't believe anymore, and I think AI has changed my mind on this, these tools, that there are people who are creative and then there's everybody else. I believe that we were all made by the creator to be creative. So we all have a creative side. However, just because you can't draw or you can't sing doesn't shouldn't prevent you from being able to be creative. So like when I look at the ability to do multimodal stuff, your imagination becomes the most valuable aspect of you. So like when I think of a unique idea or story or movie or game idea, and I see the technology and I have the tools to make that thing come to life quicker, so I don't have to go learn how to edit video in this really complex tool that's like feels like I need a PhD to figure it out, or this I don't have to be an audio engineer, or I don't have to be a game developer and learn all the intricate details of the programming language required to run that game, but I can just use my imagination and have this tool help me develop what make my imagination come to life. I think that's the future that I'm looking forward to the most, despite all the negative stuff that I'm sure will pop up. Like with any great innovation, there's always great positives and great negatives. In this case, I'm excited about the future of creativity for all of humanity, not just those people that consider themselves creative or more creative than others.
Do y'all not think it's gone too far? Do you not think it's going too far? Because me personally, I do. I think it's OD at this point. I think they're just doing it just cause they can. Like, do
But
y'all
we've been
not
doing
think
that
this
with
is
all
not a?
sorts of technologies forever.
I mean, obviously, but I'm just saying. I'm asking you, as an individual, do you not think it's going too far? Like at this point, like, whoa,
I think it's up for debate.
that's that. And that's why I'm asking.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because I don't think it's intrusive and it's not where it's not being forced on us. Now, if it was,
It kind
now
of
if
is though.
not really,
We
because
couldn't stop it if we wanted to.
yeah, but we don't have to use it.
Okay.
Like we can choose not to use it. We haven't been forced to absolutely use ChatGPT, or that's the way I'm looking at it, or any of these. We're choosing to use them because they're useful tools, not because we're being forced by overseers or something. Like it would be different if there was a technology that was being forced on us,
Right, like the
right?
Chinese situation you were talking about with the whatever it is with the Google in China.
Surveillance, yeah. Like the surveillance in the other area, like the oversteps like that and authoritative regimes,
Mm.
and like I don't know. Now, for me, this would be a conspiracy situation, but where I would consider it a true overstep and in need of some kind of standing up and rebelling would be like, you think of, and we could probably talk about this in a future episode, but the Neuralink situation with implanting chips in your body. Like, if that was being forced on humans and being forced on a society, now that would be an extreme issue to me. But like this
Don't you?
open AI stuff, it's free. We have it's a free in terms of like we don't have to use it if we don't want to. It isn't really being forced on us.
So, what do you guys think? How is AI going to affect cybersecurity, and how does it affect it already right now? How long do we have a choice, or will it ever come to that? And how does AI affect or help you in your day-to-day life? please drop a comment and let us know.
And that wraps up another enlightening episode of Cyber Chronicles.
If you have feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear them. Drop a comment if available, or check the description to find more information about the podcast guest and social media channels. A big thanks to Jay Sells for making these sweet beats. If you enjoyed the intro and outro music, please make sure to check his information in the description.
Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep embracing the future.
This is Landon.
And this is Nate, signing off from Cyber Chronicles.